We've got AR calling from an undisclosed location. AR is in a bunker somewhere.
It's actually called R.
R.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe. Hi. It says here that you want to talk about how positive atheism and veganism overlap. Is that accurate?
Well, that's kind of sort of. I think that the call screener was paraphrasing me to somewhat accuracy. Anyway.
Okay.
But
that's what we strive for around here, is somewhat accuracy.
Yes. Well, I'll try to clarify. And first of all, thanks for doing the show. I've been watching for years. This is the first opportunity I've had to call in live in all the years I've been doing it, because I do a lot of animal rescue work. And that's where in the positive atheism comes into play. Some time ago, one of the hosts, it may have been Matt, said that he'd like people to call in, atheists to call in and talk about the good work that they do. And I'm not bragging, but I am very proud of what I do. In the years I've been, I focus mostly on cats because I relate best to cats. I've helped some dogs also, but the number measures in the thousands that I've helped save.
Awesome.
And I am genuinely proud of that. A lot of times people tell me that I'm doing God's work. And my response to that is, well, rather open atheism. I say something like, if there were an all-powerful, all-loving God in charge of the universe, then atheists like me would not have to be needed to help rescue his most innocent and most vulnerable creatures.
Sure.
If it's God's, and if it's God's work, like, why isn't he doing the work?
Yeah.
It's always my.
Are we talking about the God who drowned all the animals in that big flood, right?
Yeah, no, there's that, and sometimes I just say, "Oh, I wish he'd do his own damn work."
Yeah, right. That would be my exact response. Because if I don't show up for work and my boss is like, Jmike, I'm doing your work for you. Like that's usually not a good thing, right? It's not like
But AR, so we got a couple of callers that I still want to get to. So let's dig in here. So what is the question or the claim here we're exploring?
Well, actually, the one of you paraphrased Satuf, and I'm cursing him now for forever ruining analogies for the program. But
just as a point of contention, Satuf, Satuf's pronouns are she, her, I believe. So we're not.
I'm sorry, my mistake.
All good.
I try to respect people's pronouns, but I'm not batting 1,000 there.
Sure.
Anyway,
you might not have seen
one of you said this demonstrate why a woman should not have bodily autonomy. Can you demonstrate why a cow or a pig should not have bodily autonomy?
Well, that was in reference to something I said. Yeah, so it's also going to help kind of understand my background from like a meta-ethical standpoint. I think when we talk about like morality or what good is in virtue of values that people have. So I don't know that there's this like objective good or objective wrong. I'm more of a humanist. So I care more about the flourishing of human species. But as of recently, I think I said on one of the last show was that I've actively tried to be vegan because I do care about the suffering of conscious creatures, obviously. But my principle doesn't start with like all conscious creatures, animals included, should be just inherently respected. Though I sympathize with that position. I'm still trying to work it out from the veganist standpoint. I just don't know that aligns with my set of values. Is really what it comes down to.
Okay. Well, I tend to broaden the well-being, respecting well-being of conscious creatures, not just respecting the well-being of human conscious creatures, because they all suffer. And I don't think you can demonstrate that one suffers more than the other. But I actually have a couple of thought experiments that might help you on the way to becoming vegan. I'm assuming that we can agree that animal abuse is wrong and that what animals go through on the way to becoming food constitutes abuse. Can we?
I would say without a doubt, factory farming would definitely fall in the realm of animal abuse.
Yeah.
That many of the practices that we have are absolutely reprehensible in terms of how we. I mean, I hate to even say care for animals when they're being prepped for slaughter. It's disgusting.
Oh, it is. And so, even if we agree that the maybe 1% of animals who are not killed through factory farming don't go through abuse, we're in 99% agreement there. So I have a couple of thought experiments and I actually found it rather easy to become vegan. I went to vegetarianism first, but I found so many meat alternatives, plant-based meat alternatives.
So practically, sorry to cut you off, but practically that's my hang up, right? Not to make this about the diet show of Jmike, but that's a lot of my problem, because really all it comes down to for me is I agree. I value suffering, obviously, in terms of I don't want things to suffer. I can only relate to what a human is like to suffer, because I only know what it's like to be a human. So I'm not trying to say that there's some lesser form of suffering or something, but my values align there first. The issue I have is that when I've actually tried to be a vegan, I've felt awful, like absolutely terrible, diet-wise, food-wise. I never feel full, never feel satisfied. I feel sick, and I tried this for a very long time, so it wasn't just a getting into it thing. So for me, my body just didn't run the same. It didn't feel like it ran the same, and that could be the fact that of what I'm used to growing up. But then there's also this issue that where I live in America, I'm in a lot of ways I'm forced to consume certain things, especially with an income that I have. Can't necessarily just go spend top dollar things for, right? So there's just pragmatic reasons on why I can't be a vegan, even though I agree that the suffering aspect is something that I align with. So I'm just gonna agree that there's an inconsistency. But right, it's like saying to a smoker who goes, "I know it's going to cause me cancer," and you just go tell them, "Hey, you shouldn't smoke." Like, I know, like trust me, I know it's hard, So it's like I agree. I'm just not going to necessarily say that I've fallen through with it successfully.
And
Right.
let me dovetail on that just a smidge. So there's a thing that I'm very fascinated by and interested in, a movement called effective altruism, where people are sort of trying to figure out how to effectively live like financially ethical lives, where you're trying to figure out how money that you donate to various causes can be most effectively used, and trying to really parse out the difference between feeling like you're doing good and actually doing good. And in learning about this, there are a number of individuals who I've found who take their salaries and then they calculate sort of a minimum amount of money that they can survive on, and then they commit to doing that. And every other money that they make, everything over that minimal amount, they donate to charity. All of it. They commit to living lives of poverty so that they can try to alleviate the suffering of others. Do I know that is well, do I know that that's a virtuous thing that they're doing? Absolutely. Do I care about the suffering and the well-being of others? Totally. Am I going to do that? Not a fucking chance. There's no way I'm going to do that. And I have nothing but respect for the people who do it. So I know that there's some inconsistency there. Like I could be a more ethical person. I could go that extra mile. I could do like what Jesus tells the Christians to do that none of them do, which is to sell everything that you have and give that money to the poor. I could do that. I'm not going to. So yeah, maybe I have more work to do in terms of figuring out where my ethical line is. But I kind of feel the same way about veganism, that it's like a very virtuous thing that people are doing. I want to minimize the effect of things like factory farming. But for whatever reason, I just can't get myself there in terms of just fully committing to a vegan lifestyle. And I've done like something maybe similar to what Jmike was describing, where I tried living like a plant-based life for a couple months last year. And yeah, I felt terrible and went back to eating meat. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's something wrong with me.
it's not for me to say no, you didn't feel that way, because that will be ridiculous. But I wanted to get to my thought experiments. One
Sure.
is a 2-button thought experiment. One, you push a button and you get food, and no animals suffered. And 2, you push a button, you get food, and animals suffered. Which one is the more moral choice, or which one is the moral choice, I would say?
So I don't like the phrasing of it, because like I said, when you say what's the more moral choice, to me that assumes objective morality, which I deny. So my answer is that there is no more moral choice. There is a more moral choice in virtue of my values
with respect to certain goals and values. Sure.
I'm a subjectivist. So the truth value of moral propositions ultimately depend on me. Okay, and so a lot of people have issues with this, and I get it. We can get into issues of implications people might think that has. I debate about it too, so you can watch videos on that if you want. But what I wanted to say real fast, that I take one in virtue of my values, but there is no objective value out there in the world that says like you should do 1 over 2. I just reject that as a notion.
Okay, if
I
agree that,
and
that's why it's subjected. That's why I, sort of preface this by saying, can we agree that animal abuse is wrong, and that what animals go through on the way to becoming food constitutes abuse?
Sure. I just wanted to draw a line to say that there is no objective. Like if I say that yes, one is more wrong, we have not established to somebody who disagrees that is what we ought to do. We've done no work to establish that.
I can actually go. I can go along with that. So we have to have obviously on any discussion of morality, we have to find some common ground, and that's why I wanted to find the common ground before doing the thought experiment.
100%. Yeah, you've done nothing wrong. I'm just being overly pedantic. So.
Okay. Well, I'll try to do something wrong today at some point. Anyway, the other thing is that if I allow that these animals, cows that contribute their milk for dairy, or their flesh for meat, or pigs for meat, if I allow for them that they are conscious creatures, if I could communicate to them while I'm in the frozen food section, because I mean, look, I like ice cream. I don't eat it anymore because there are soy-based alternatives to ice cream. But before I found these, I had to resist daily whenever I would go to the supermarket buying ice cream. And I imagined myself looking into the long-suffering eyes of a cow who had been in a cage only slightly larger than herself, who had her offspring robbed from her every time she gave birth, so that the milk would go to ice cream and milk rather than her babies. What would I say to her to justify the suffering that I was contributing to? And the answer was nothing. I had to look towards my own empathy.
Right.
And I don't know if this is going to help you get there, because I recall Jmike, maybe last week or the week before, saying that, if there was someone who could, say something to help him along the way, and I hope maybe this does, and also try eating a whole lot of pasta.
What I was going to say was providing the actual thing for me to buy and eat, and it doesn't kill the bank, because I am a broke college student. So if it doesn't kill the bank, then that's the more the advice. I already agree with right. Well, and I would agree with the value assessment. Go, yeah, I would care about the suffering of that animal, right? The difference from me and from that aspect is more of a practical and pragmatic one. It's just I'm gonna agree that I'm inconsistent at some point, but that's not the only place in my life I'm inconsistent. And I think I said this on the last show as well. I call my family more. There's a lot of things I could do more of, right? And that I'm inconsistent with. I don't know a single person that doesn't. I don't want to prop that up as an excuse. I just want to prop that up as I recognize it, and I do want to work towards it. But if I go on suffering and feeling like shit because of my efforts to not make someone else, or it's not someone else, but food source, some food source that has already been killed and ready for me to eat, then for me, I don't really know how I get around that. And if someone, and that's what it comes down to. If someone can actually provide that, then that issue goes away from me.
Yeah.
There's a faulty reasoning there because yes, you're consuming the meat of animals who have already been killed, but by buying that meat, you are giving financial incentive for the next ones to be killed and tortured.
Well, there's always going to be I mean, I agree with you, but there's going to be financial, like I don't know that it's going to be a successful mission to change that from the perspective, because you're talking about subjective values that people hold, and you know what I mean? Like the fact that I can recognize that and make the move is one thing, but you have a whole other ball game of trying to get someone else to either recognize that they do have that value, and then to admit, that they're inconsistent, and then also if they don't have that value, for them to change values and recognize that they should. Right. There's that whole ball game to play before then. And then you could talk about like that somehow changing the effect. But as long as we're in a capitalistic society where there's profit to be gained, I don't know that stops, but that's just my opinion. So.
And honestly, this conversation is an interesting one. I feel like this would be a great one for the Talk Heathen Facebook group, where people can pitch in all kinds of different ideas, and we can bat this thing around and explore it. In the meantime, we do have more callers to get to. Thank you very much for calling in.